It's a hot summer's day in the German city of Dresden. A huge fun fair offers lots of fun for kids. 7-year-old Alyssa from Kyiv has come with her mother. But the two of them are not here on a fun holiday. They're refugees who fled a brutal war in which they both almost died. The war raging back home in Ukraine is far away, and yet always there, in their thoughts, in their memories, in their emotions.
When I think about Ukraine, then I remember how my daddy was shot. Then I'm afraid. And even here, if we drive fast, I remember my last car drive with my daddy. We drove really fast so the tank wouldn't hit us. But it hit us anyway.
Alyssa and her mother now live in a small town near Dresden. They don't know how long they'll be here. A return to their old life in Kyiv is not possible. Everything is gone. At the start of the war, they fled Kyiv, as did many people, and went to the surrounding countryside. What they didn't know is that this area would become more dangerous than the city center.
On March 3rd, we were near Kyiv. We had actually decided that day to drive back home. We left with 2 cars. My husband and daughter were in the first car. I was following in the second. After driving for about 7 minutes, we came under fire. We drove faster, but then on the Zhytomyr highway, we were shot at from the forest.
Her husband and daughter's car was hit and came to a halt. She initially hurried on in fear for her life, but then turned around and came back.
I stopped in front of the tank. I got out of the car slowly with my hands raised. The tank aimed its cannon at me. When I moved to the right, the cannon moved right. If I moved to the left, it followed. And yet I was holding up my hands the whole time and begging them, don't shoot, don't shoot. Eventually, a Russian soldier beckoned me to come closer. He told me to kneel down, so I knelt. He asked me where the Ukrainian forces were. I said I didn't know. He asked me why I was there and where I was going. I said I was going home and asked him to please let me pass. Then he got really angry and started shouting at me. He kept asking me where the Ukrainian soldiers were. Suddenly I saw him reach for his machine gun. I jumped up and started to run. He fired his gun and hit me from behind in my shoulder, and I fell to the ground.
She dragged herself to the edge of the road and just lay on the ground. What happened next, she only knows from her 7-year-old daughter.
The 2 of them were somewhere far away from me. I didn't know what had happened to them. Later, my daughter told me that they had come under heavy fire. The car started emitting smoke. The smoke was so bad they could no longer breathe. Although my husband was badly wounded, he managed to open the window for her with his last strength.
Alyssa managed to climb out the window. She then hid in the forest, in a trench abandoned by the Russian soldiers. There she was found by a member of Ukraine's civilian defense force. He took her straight to hospital. She'd been shot in the shoulder, but was able to say what had happened. And thanks to her information, her badly wounded mother was also found. A number of bullets had shattered parts of her right side. Before fleeing to Germany, both mother and daughter had to undergo emergency surgery. The little girl remembers everything.
I was in hospital, and my cuddly toy was with me. He's a dog and is called Mopsik. The doctors wanted to stick a needle in me. It hurt so much I screamed. I probably scared all the children in the hospital. The doctor said it wouldn't hurt, but it did. They also promised to bring Mopsik back to me, but they didn't. Mopsik was just as injured as I was. We both had bullet wounds. My other toys all burned up in the car. Only Mopsik is still with me in the house where I now live.
The story of Alyssa from Kyiv is one of many. One of thousands in a war that is also a war against Ukraine's children. How will they cope with the trauma they're experiencing? How will they process death and destruction? The loss of their homeland? The knowledge that they'll never see certain family members and friends again? How present is the war for them, and what scars does it leave behind? Dr. Yulia Golub, who originates from Russia herself, heads up a clinic for child and adolescent psychiatry and psychotherapy at Dresden's University Hospital. She says experiencing war and violence at a young age affects a child for life.
The younger the children are, the fewer ideas they have about the world. Their concept of the world develops over time. So you can imagine, the earlier they suffer the trauma, the deeper it goes. If the children have no prior concept of the world, then they will perceive it as a very dangerous and unsafe place. They will think, my own life is very unsafe, and my fate is uncertain. If children have had no dramatic experiences, they feel they're invincible and somehow untouchable. They think nothing can happen to them. And then suddenly, everything changes. Suddenly, the world is not safe, not even for a second, and the world is not fair. The world is evil.
Since the Russian invasion on February 24th last year, many children in Ukraine have seen their world turn into a nightmare. From one day to the next, many have lost almost everything that they've loved and knew that gave them a sense of safety and well-being. Hundreds of children have suffered injuries as a result of the Russian invasion and occupation. They've experienced rocket attacks and artillery fire.